Welcome back to my YouTube channel, everyone. It's good to see you again. If you're new here, make sure you stick around because today, we're diving deep into one of the wildest stories about money, luck, and history that you've probably never heard before. This isn't your typical rags to riches tale or some overused legend of someone stumbling across treasure. No, today's story is about something as simple as a penny, but not just any penny, and how it became worth a jaw-dropping $428 million. Now, let's roll back the clock to a different world, a world before smartphones and TikTok, before memes and influencers. It's the late 90s, 1999 to be exact. The world was buzzing with anticipation and low-key panic about Y2K. Napster had just started flipping the music industry on its head, and people were still renting movies from Blockbuster. It was a different kind of excitement, a weird blend of optimism about the new millennium and anxiety about what computers might do when the calendar switched over to 2000. In a quiet town in Pennsylvania, a man named Harold Jenkins lived a modest life. Harold was a retired postal worker, the kind of guy who wore flannel shirts even in the summer and knew the name of every neighbor within 3 blocks. His daily routine was nothing special: breakfast at the same diner, a stroll through the park, a few hours tending to his stamp and coin collection, and an evening spent on his porch reading mystery novels. Harold's coin collection wasn't some grand museum-worthy affair. Most of it was sentimental. He had old quarters from road trips, silver dollars passed down from his grandfather, and the occasional rare find from estate sales and flea markets. It was more about memories than money for him. He often joked that his collection would probably end up at a yard sale for $5 after he was gone. One crisp autumn morning, Harold decided to visit a flea market about 20 miles outside of town. It was the kind of place where you could find rusted farm equipment next to vintage records and hand-knitted scarves. Harold loved it there, the chaos, the bargaining, the hunt. That day, as he wandered through the maze of stalls, he stumbled upon a table piled high with old coins. Nothing looked particularly special at first glance: tarnished nickels, worn-down dimes, the usual, but tucked near the edge of the table was a small, battered envelope marked simply 1 cent, 1999. Curious, Harold picked it up. Inside was a single penny, shiny but unremarkable at first glance. The seller, an elderly woman wearing oversized sunglasses and a sun hat, noticed him looking and said, "Take it. $1. Just trying to clear out my husband's junk." Harold hesitated. $1 for a penny seemed ridiculous. But then again, Harold wasn't really there to be practical. He handed over the dollar, slipped the envelope into his pocket, and thought nothing more about it for weeks afterward. The penny sat forgotten on his kitchen counter, next to the grocery lists and unpaid bills. It wasn't until a particularly rainy Saturday afternoon, when Harold was reorganizing his collection, that he stumbled upon it again. He pulled out his magnifying glass, more out of boredom than genuine curiosity, and took a closer look. Immediately, something seemed off. The color was slightly different, a richer, deeper copper tone. The detail on Lincoln's face was sharper, almost too perfect. And then there was the date, 1999. He flipped the penny over. On the reverse side, the Lincoln Memorial was normal, but at the base, near the steps, there were 2 tiny initials that didn't match any he'd seen before. Intrigued, Harold began researching. He spent hours on coin collector forums, digging through dusty library books, even writing emails to numismatic experts. What he learned sent shivers down his spine. The penny in his possession wasn't just a regular 1999 penny. It was a prototype, a pattern coin, a test piece created by the US Mint but never officially released to the public. Only a handful were ever made, and most were destroyed to prevent confusion with circulated currency. Somehow, one had escaped, likely smuggled out by a Mint employee, but it wasn't just the rarity that made it valuable. There was a rumor in numismatic circles about the 1999 penny, that it was struck using a secret alloy, a unique blend of metals intended to replace the traditional composition. The Mint had experimented with a material so durable it was almost impervious to wear and corrosion. If verified, Harold's penny would not only be one of a kind, it would be a piece of monetary history. Word spread like wildfire once Harold quietly approached a well-known auction house. Offers started flooding in before the penny was even officially listed. Private collectors, museums, even banks wanted a piece of this story. The auction, when it finally happened, shattered every record. The starting bid was a modest $50,000, but within minutes it soared past $1 million. By the time the final hammer fell, Harold's penny had sold for an unbelievable $428 million. The buyer was a mysterious billionaire known for his obsession with rare artifacts. No one knows exactly where the penny is today. Some say it's locked away in a vault beneath a private island, others believe it was melted down to prevent anyone else from owning it. But for Harold, it didn't matter. Overnight, he went from a retired postal worker to one of the wealthiest men in America. What did Harold do with his newfound fortune? You might expect lavish mansions, sports cars, trips around the world. But Harold stayed true to himself. He bought a slightly bigger house, mostly because he wanted a bigger porch, and donated large sums to libraries, postal worker unions, and small-town charities. He funded scholarships for kids who wanted to study history and built a new community center in his hometown, complete with a free library and coin museum. Still, life wasn't perfect. The sudden wealth brought media attention, distant relatives he barely remembered, and endless requests for money. Harold handled it all with the same quiet dignity he always had. He often said that the best thing he bought with the money was freedom, the freedom to live exactly how he wanted. As the years passed, Harold's story became legend. Writers turned it into novels, filmmakers tried to secure the rights for movies, and conspiracy theorists speculated wildly about how the penny had escaped the mint in the first place. Some claimed it was a deliberate leak, part of a hidden message about the future of US currency. Others believed it was linked to secret societies that controlled world finance. Harold just smiled whenever he heard those stories. He knew the truth was much simpler. Sometimes the world spins in funny ways. Sometimes you buy a penny for $1 at a flea market and it changes your life forever. Looking back, it's easy to see why Harold's penny captivated so many people. It wasn't just about the money. It was about the magic of the ordinary, the idea that something so small, something so overlooked, could hold such immense value. It was a reminder that treasures are often hidden in plain sight, waiting for someone with a sharp eye and a bit of luck to find them. In the years since, the story of the 1999 penny has inspired countless people to dig through their change jars, to attend flea markets and estate sales, hoping they might stumble upon their own piece of hidden history. It reignited an interest in coin collecting, especially among young people, many of whom had never thought twice about the coins they spent every day. Today, there are entire communities dedicated to finding the next great discovery. Online forums, YouTube channels, and podcasts have sprung up, each sharing tips, theories, and stories about rare coins and the adventures of those who seek them. In a world dominated by digital transactions and cryptocurrency, the humble penny and Harold's story serve as a powerful reminder of the tangible magic that physical money can still hold. And Harold himself. He lived out the rest of his days quietly, exactly as he liked. He kept visiting the same diner for breakfast, though now he always tipped a little extra. He still strolled through the park every day, still wore his old flannel shirts. The only real difference was the sparkle in his eye, a kind of secret joy that only someone who had seen a miracle up close could understand. When he passed away, there wasn't a grand funeral or a parade. Just a small gathering of friends and neighbors, who shared stories about the man who had shown them that life's greatest treasures often come when you least expect them. Harold's gravestone is simple, just like he was. It reads, "Collector of stories, finder of magic." And somewhere out there, locked away in a vault or maybe tucked into the pocket of another unsuspecting soul, the 1999 penny waits, its legend growing with each passing year. So next time you find a penny on the ground or dig through a handful of spare change, remember Harold Jenkins and the day the world's most valuable penny changed history. Because you never know. The next one might just change yours. Thanks for hanging out today. If you like this story, make sure you stick around because there's plenty more coming your way. From tales of lost treasures to unbelievable finds that changed lives forever, we've got a lot more adventures ahead. Don't forget to keep your eyes open, stay curious, and maybe, just maybe, check your pockets a little more carefully. Next 2019 D1 cent USA coin. It's great to have you all here again. If you've been following for a while, you know we dig into some of the most unbelievable stories out there, stories that you almost wouldn't believe if they weren't real. Today, buckle up, because I'm about to take you through one of the wildest, most unexpected tales of hidden fortune in recent history. A story about something so small you might carry dozens of them around without a second thought, a simple penny. But not just any penny. This is the story of a 2019 1-cent piece that ended up being worth a jaw-dropping $318 million. Let's get into it. It all began in the early spring of 2020, right before the world took a sharp turn into the unknown. Most people were preoccupied with lockdowns, face masks, and sourdough bread experiments. But for 23-year-old Emma Rodriguez from Tucson, Arizona, life was about as ordinary as it gets. Emma worked the late shift at a 24-hour gas station just off the interstate, a place where tired truckers, late-night snack hunters, and sometimes very questionable characters passed through. Emma wasn't a coin collector, or a history buff, or even particularly lucky. She was just another person trying to scrape by, paying off student loans while dreaming of someday moving to a bigger city. Her days were long and predictable, ringing up sodas and cigarettes, wiping down coffee machines, and wondering if life would ever hand her something better. It was a slow Tuesday night when everything changed. A man in a dusty black pickup, face half hidden by a ball cap, came in, grabbed a hot dog from the rotating grill, and paid in cash, crumpled bills and a handful of coins. Emma barely looked at them. She dropped the coins into the register and handed him his change. As he turned to leave, she noticed one coin had missed the drawer and rolled onto the counter. It was a penny. A shiny, almost brand new penny. The year caught her eye, 2019. Nothing special. But something about it, the way it gleamed under the flickering fluorescent lights, the way the mint mark next to the date seemed slightly off-center, made her pause. She shrugged, slipped it into her pocket, and forgot about it until the next morning. Days turned into weeks. The penny ended up in a small glass jar on Emma's windowsill, mixed in with loose buttons, paperclips, and a broken earring. Life moved on. Masks became mandatory, the gas station installed plexiglass shields, and Emma started to feel like the world might never go back to normal. One evening, scrolling mindlessly through her phone, Emma stumbled across a random article, rare 2019 penny rumored to exist, worth millions. She laughed out loud. Yeah, right. But curiosity got the better of her. She read on. The article was vague, almost conspiracy theory levels of weird. It claimed that in 2019, the Denver Mint had accidentally produced a small batch of pennies using an experimental alloy designed for military-grade durability, a material that was supposed to be classified. According to the article, the pennies were meant to be destroyed, but rumors said a few had escaped into circulation. No official confirmation, no pictures, just whispers. Emma dug the jar off her windowsill and fished out the penny. She squinted at it, then snapped a picture and posted it on a coin-collecting forum, half as a joke. Within minutes, her inbox exploded, private messages flooded in. Offers. Questions. Begging. People were offering hundreds, thousands just for a chance to examine it. A moderator of the forum, someone with thousands of posts and a reputation for being the real deal, sent her a message that made her stomach flip. You might have something worth more than you can imagine. Don't sell it. Get it authenticated. Now, Emma barely slept that night. The next morning, she called out sick and drove 2 hours to the nearest certified numismatist she could find, a wiry old man named Kenneth Palmer who ran a cluttered little shop wedged between a laundromat and a payday loan office. Palmer didn't look impressed when she showed him the penny. He saw hundreds of coins a day, most of them brought in by hopeful amateurs chasing fairy tales. But as he adjusted his loupe and leaned in, the color drained from his face. He tested the metal composition. Checked the strike pattern. Pulled out ancient, dusty books and cross-referenced minute details. After nearly an hour, he sat back, rubbed his forehead, and said words Emma would never forget. If this is real, and I think it is, you're sitting on the rarest coin of the 21st century. It turned out Emma's penny was one of exactly 12 known 2019 experimental alloy pennies that had been accidentally released. The others? Either lost, melted, or in the possession of a government so secretive they wouldn't even acknowledge their existence. Over the next few months, Emma's life spiraled into a bizarre, surreal chaos. Authentication was only the first step. The coin was examined by the Smithsonian, featured in numismatic journals, and analyzed by metallurgists who confirmed that the alloy was unlike anything seen in circulation coins, stronger than titanium, resistant to all known acids, and completely non-magnetic. Speculation ran wild. Some said the penny had been part of a covert military program to create unforgeable currency for classified operations. Others suggested it was part of a black-budget experiment involving next-generation materials science. No one really knew, and the government wasn't talking. The auction was scheduled for November, a full media circus descending on Tucson. Emma, who hated public speaking and attention of any kind, suddenly found herself thrust into interviews, photo ops, and guest appearances on morning talk shows. She wore the same battered sneakers and second-hand jacket to every appearance, looking bewildered and deeply uncomfortable. When the auction began, the bidding was furious and immediate. Private collectors, tech billionaires, shadowy investors from countries Emma had barely heard of, all clawing for a piece of history. The final bid came from an anonymous buyer operating through layers of shell companies, $318 million. Emma's cut, after taxes and fees, was staggering. She paid off her debts in a single afternoon, bought a small ranch outside the city, and set up a scholarship fund for students who wanted to study material sciences and engineering. But the story didn't end there. The sale of the 2019 D-penny unleashed a frenzy unlike anything the coin-collecting world had seen before. Treasure hunters descended on Arizona, sweeping gas stations, flea markets, vending machines, anywhere a penny might lurk. Lawsuits erupted. People claimed to have found more experimental pennies, but almost all turned out to be fakes. A black market emerged, with forgers producing near-perfect replicas that flooded eBay and underground auctions. And then came the darker side. One night, a strange car was spotted outside Emma's property, headlights off, engine idling. Another time, her mail was torn open before it reached her mailbox. She received anonymous notes, "You found one. There are more." Some hinted at maps, at hidden caches of government experiments gone rogue. Others were more sinister, suggesting she hadn't just found a coin, but a key to something much larger. Emma kept her head down, refused interviews, and beefed up security. She wanted nothing more than to disappear. But curiosity gnawed at her. Late at night, she would stare at the stars and wonder. Was there really more out there? Other lost experimental coins? Other artifacts forgotten by bureaucracies too massive and secretive to keep track? The whispers grew louder. Stories circulated of a 2019 D-penny found embedded in the concrete floor of an abandoned military testing site in Nevada. Another was allegedly discovered fused into a piece of melted scrap in a scrapyard outside Houston. No confirmations. Just stories. Legends. Collectors who had paid fortunes for the original coins became obsessed, funding private investigations, launching expeditions, even bribing mint employees. Somewhere along the line, the search for pennies turned into something bigger, a hunt for lost technology, for secrets buried in plain sight. Emma stayed on the edge of it all, watching, wary. She had her money, her peace, and her memories. But she also kept a small lockbox under her bed, not filled with cash or jewelry, but with clippings, maps, blurry photographs. A reminder that once, by sheer dumb luck, she had touched the unknown. And maybe, just maybe, she might do it again someday. Today, if you ask around in the right circles, you'll still hear about the 2019 D-penny. Some say the government finally managed to retrieve and destroy all of them, cleaning up their mistake. Others believe they're still out there, hidden among billions of ordinary coins, waiting to be found by someone with sharp eyes and a little bit of luck. And as for Emma Rodriguez? She never confirmed anything. She vanished from the public eye, stopped answering interview requests, and let the world move on without her. But every so often, late at night, a battered old Ford pickup with Arizona plates is seen cruising through tiny desert towns, stopping at gas stations, and buying a coffee, always paying in cash. Maybe she's just moving on. Or maybe, just maybe, she's still searching. Thanks for sticking around today. If you enjoyed this wild ride, make sure to stay tuned because we've got even more insane stories of lost treasures, hidden fortunes, and unbelievable finds coming your way. Keep your eyes open, keep your pockets light, and remember, sometimes the smallest things hold the biggest secrets.